Non-ability classes. None is the most overpowered class in the game. It's free and automatically given to players on their first time playing, and it gives you the all-powerful shovel. In all seriousness, this class sucks. What did you expect? You get a shovel and brute force your way through the game. The description is literally no special abilities or modifiers, the true test of raw skill. The only classes worse than the literal default of classes are Musician and President in solo. Cowboy is one of the best beginner and solo run classes in the game. It's described as a class that gives you a revolver, ammo, and a tamed horse. Before the flying horse glitch was patched, this class was basically a cheap way to speedrun bonds, as you could use the free horse you got to fly through the game. This class was great for early game because you didn't have to worry about spending any money on defenses since you had a lot of revolver ammo. The horse you got was just great for travel, as normally you'd have to rely on outlaws or finding a saddle early game to get a horse. If you get lucky, you could spawn with a unicorn instead of a horse, because all horses have a 1% chance of being unicorns. This is the perfect class for completing the Pony Express challenge. The only downsides with this class are that it costs 50 bonds, and the revolver becomes useless around mid-game, as you should have more than enough money to buy better guns. Whether this is better than Miner depends on how you play the game, but both are just really good cheap options for early game. The Alamo is a great defensive class for protecting the train early game. The Alamo is a class that lets you spawn with items you can use to defend the train. These items are 3 barbed wires and 3 metal sheets. The barbed wire is great for fending off any entities that try to get on the train, and the metal sheets are bulletproof, so they prevent outlaws from being able to shoot at you, depending on where you place them, of course. You spawn with a helmet, so you get a little bit of early game damage reduction. Besides that, this class is fine for new players. This is the perfect class for the armored train since the space itself is already pretty cramped, so placing metal sheets and barbed wires is a lot more efficient. Before we get into the next one, comment below your favorite class, and while you're at it, just hit that subscribe button. Come on, we are trying to hit 100k before the end of July. Anyway. Miner is another one of the best beginner and solo run classes in the game. It's described as a class that lets you spawn with coal, have a headlamp that provides light, and easily mine ore. More specifically, you spawn with 2 coal, a mining helmet, and a pickaxe. Now all of these things can be bought in the general store, but Miner gives them to you at the start of the game for free. The 2 coal means you don't have to worry about spending the money you get from the gold bar at the start on coal. Instead, you can focus on anything you want to start your run as long as it's at or under $70. You don't have to really worry about buying a weapon unless you want to. The pickaxe acts as a melee weapon similar to the shovel. The mining helmet is extremely helpful at night, letting you see a lot better than without it, because it's your own personal light source. This class works really well with High Roller and Conductor. The only real downsides with this class are that you can't use both the helmet and mining helmet at the same time, and the class becomes less useful in the mid to late game since by then you should have a lot more money and ores won't matter anymore. Ability classes. Musician is like a healer class. It's described as a class where playing a banjo will slowly heal nearby players, but not the player themselves. If you for some reason use this class while playing solo, you might as well sell the banjo. It gives you $10 that you can use to buy a weapon. Why do you have to buy a weapon? Well, it's because this class makes you start without one. This really isn't that big of a downside since getting weapons in this game is pretty easy. This class should be paired up with a Vampire, an Ironclad, or a Necromancer, or really any class that takes away health to use or loses health a lot. This class is okay, unless there is some proper way to use it, which if there is, I don't know how. Your games will just consist of you spamming the banjo as much as humanly possible and healing players for what feels like 1 HP every click. To get the 10 out of 10 best possible use of this class, you're gonna need multiple musicians, and you'll probably need to play on Nightmare since it disables regular regeneration. This is a pretty cheap class, so you get what you pay for, only costing 15 bonds. Doctor is a better healer class. It is described as a class that lets you spawn with healing items and revive teammates by sacrificing half of your own health instead of using bandages. The healing items you spawn with are 2 bandages and 2 snake oils, which can be extremely useful early game, whether you're in a team with people or going solo. Those snake oils can really be lifesavers, and bandages are literally lifesavers. You could sell these healing items for $40 instead, which combined with the gold bar gives you $100, allowing you to buy some extra stuff you couldn't before. Reviving downed players by taking away 50% of your own health is insanely useful since you can just use any healing items you have and get your health back to 100%. Since Doctor is a good healer class, it should be paired up with classes that specialize in damage but have issues maintaining health like Vampires and Survivalists, but it can be very useful to pair with Ironclads and Werewolves. The only downside to this class is that its passive can't be used in solo, but that's not really that much of a downside since you're playing by yourself anyway. Arsonist is a crowd control type class. It is described as a class that lets you be a pyromaniac that's immune to fire damage and spawns with Molotovs. You spawn with 4 Molotovs, but unlike Doctor, you can't sell these. This class originally allowed you to deal double fire damage, but that has since been removed, and the only real perk you get besides the starting Molotovs is fire immunity. This class might be mid. Maybe if it had the double fire damage it would be better, but only Molotovs and Holy Waters deal dire damage. Molotovs are really good for crowd control. You can gather a bunch of zombies together and then throw the Molotovs to clear out most, if not all, of the zombies. Because of this class would be best paired with any class good for luring enemies like Vampire, Werewolf, or Cowboy. The biggest problem with this class is that anyone can buy Molotovs and be exactly the same as this class, just without fire immunity. At least without the healing items, Doctor can still revive down players. This class would probably be meta for Scorched Earth if classes were allowed. Necromancer probably has the biggest downfall out of any class, and it's all because of a bug that still hasn't been fixed as of writing this. It's described as a class that lets enemies killed with a melee weapon have a 25% chance of being reincarnated at the cost of 10 health. The only issue is, it doesn't actually reanimate anything right now. This class seems to have gone through a lot of really bad bugs. Before the reanimating stopped working, there was a bug where reanimated enemies would start a mutiny against you and attack you instead. If this class actually worked and did what it was supposed to, it would be a very good class. If you somehow managed to defeat a werewolf or outlaw using a melee weapon and reanimate them, they would be extremely helpful allies. This class is essentially a worse version of the Jade Sword because the Jade Sword has a 50% chance of reanimating enemies. However, the Jade Sword can only be obtained in the Sterling Mines, which are flooded with skeletons and dynamite zombies. Just to get to Sterling takes a while, and you could go pretty far into the game without seeing it if you're unlucky. If you use the Jade Sword while having the Necromancer class, you could have a 75% reanimation chance, which would be pretty powerful. Too bad Necromancer is broken. Necromancer works best with any class that heals or has healing items, which is only 2, Doctor and Musician. Packmaster is a pretty useful support class and Hunter's mortal enemy. It is described as a class that lets you spawn with 3 tamed wolves. Any wolf that attacks you will become tamed. This can be very helpful early game when fighting off zombies, as the wolves can be used as meat shields. Wolf packs are very beneficial because they can all become your allies as long as a werewolf doesn't spawn among them. Werewolves should count too, since they're just wolves on steroids. Packmaster and Hunter peak duo, you and your friend should definitely try to beat the game using Packmaster and Hunter. Anyway, Packmaster has a few issues. Wolves are just very tedious to manage, and oftentimes you have to either store or wield them, and wielding is a problem since if you forget, then they'll just stand still and be attacked. Wolves can be very rare, and you may go a long time before even seeing a pack. But if you do manage to get an army of wolves, you could beat Nikola Tesla a lot easier since, like I said, wolves are great meat shields. This class is a must-have if you want to complete the Dance with Wolves challenge. Conductor is a mostly multiplayer focused class. You can use it for solo, and it would still be pretty useful, but it is recommended to go with others because everyone can benefit from a faster train. You also spawn with 2 coal, letting you focus on buying other stuff instead of coal, just like Miner. Unfortunately, to balance this class out, you don't spawn with a melee weapon, but if you're playing solo, you could just buy yourself your own weapon since you don't have to rely on buying coal. This class is best paired with Miner since the combined 4 coal and increased speed could get you pretty far without having to worry about refueling. This makes speedrunning a lot easier. Werewolf is an offensive class that gives you 2 times speed, damage, and health at night, but it all changes to 0.9 times in the day. The 2x buff at night allows you to outrun every kind of entity and tank a lot of hits at night. You can do up to 280% more damage at night due to a bug, and 190% more damage with a gun during the day, which is due to a bug, but these could have been patched now, so take that statement with a grain of salt. The 10% decrease in everything at day isn't that bad of a trade-off, but it depends on how you play. This class is literally useless in the daytime, and without a mining helmet, seeing at night can be very difficult. The main thing you should always focus on with this class is getting a mining helmet. Due to the 2 times damage, long-range weapons like rifles are really powerful for taking out really any entity. Despite the drawbacks, this class is still considered one of the best offensive classes. If Conductor is a mostly multiplayer focused class, then High Roller is a super multiplayer focused class. It's really only good for teams. High Roller is good for solo too, depending on how you play the game, but be warned, if you get struck by lightning, you're not getting revived. High Roller lets you collect money bags for 1.5 times more, but you're 10 times more likely to be struck by lightning. If you know your luck in games is terrible, don't use this class solo. The 1.5x money you get is a huge advantage as money is really easy to come by for you now. The amount of money you get makes this class great for Nightmare, since money is a lot harder to get in that mode. You could also try to counter the lightning by getting a lightning rod. This class is great for using Electrocutioner since you can use lightning to your advantage. The only real disadvantage, besides being 10 times more likely to get toasted, is that the large amount of money you get becomes normal in the mid game, as everyone else should have a lot of money by then too, but that's not really that bad. Demolitionist is an offensive class, though when I say offensive, I don't mean toward entities, I mean toward everyone else in your team. You spawn with 4 landmines and a gunpowder barrel. It's basically an explosion class. 9 times out of 10, when you see someone use this class and they aren't going solo, they're using it for trolling. Why? Well, because you have explosion immunity, but only you. The best actual use for this class is exploding large crowds of entities, like in Sterling or the castle. The explosion immunity means dynamite zombies can't jump scare you anymore. Another downside for this class is it costs 75 bonds. Extremely expensive for a class you mostly only use for trolling, but being able to laugh at other people's expense is worth it. I am the Milkman. My milk is delicious. Milkman is an offensive class where, and yes, this is word for word what it says, the more you are covered in milk, the more powerful you will become. You spawn with 1 bottle of milk. When you are 100% covered in milk, gross, you are 5 times faster, do 4.5 times more melee damage, and regen 2 HP every second. All of these buffs turn you into pretty much the strongest person on your team. You can clear most towns really easily, except the downsides are pretty bad. Milk is pretty rare, and without it, you might as well not be using a class at all. Even when you are at 100%, you're only like that for 3 minutes. You aren't instantly covered in milk, it goes up slowly like most other percentage things, whatever they're called. This class costs 75 bonds, making it pretty expensive. Remember when I said 4.5 times melee damage? Yeah, I mentioned melee because it doesn't apply to guns at all. It's a decent class, but probably not worth how much it costs. Survivalist is one of the very few classes with little to no disadvantages. It's an offensive class that makes you do more damage the lower your health. You spawn in with a tomahawk, which is just a better shovel, and your base damage is increased. The tomahawk can be sold for $15 extra, so you can buy something else. The extra damage makes Survivalist great for dealing with tougher entities like werewolves, especially since all long-range weapons deal 2 times more damage when using this class. Unlike 50% of the classes here, Survivalist is good for the entire game, because who doesn't like extra damage? Well, I guess Werewolf is good all game too, or technically half of it since it's only good at night. Anyway, you deal 1% more damage for every 1 HP lost, making this class very good at Nightmare since there's no regeneration, meaning if you lost 50% of your health, you will basically permanently do 50% more damage unless you find something to heal you. The only real downside of this class, besides the 75 bonds it costs, is that you're consistently going to be at low health, which can be risky, but you'll be fine. If you're really good at the game, then you should be fine playing with like 25 HP all game. Plus, you'll just be revived by bandages if you're playing with a team. Vampire is an insanely good offensive class. You get increased movement speed, melee damage, faster regen when covered in blood, but 1.3 damage per second in sunlight. By increased movement speed and melee damage, it's really 2 times movement speed and 2 times melee damage. The best part about this class is that you spawn with the vampire knife, one of the most OP melee weapons in the game. Basically, you aren't dying to most entities as long as you have that knife. The whole take damage in sunlight thing is negated as long as you are covered in blood, since the blood makes you regenerate faster than you lose health. If you hadn't gotten the vampire knife in-game before, spawning with it using this class gives you the badge instantly upon picking it up. This class is best paired with anything that can heal, since, you know, you're allergic to the sun. Downsides aren't that bad either. Of course, it costs 75 bonds, so get to grinding. The sunlight damage is kind of annoying, but honestly, you'll just get your health back anyway after using the vampire knife on some zombies. The 2x speed may be slightly annoying for trying to wield things or attack slower entities, but honestly, every downside this class has is useless when you realize you can single-handedly clear any town with just the vampire knife. Hunters should be classified as a trolling class, since one unlucky wolf pack spawn and not paying attention can easily lead to you getting overrun by werewolves very early into the game. Hunter is a supposedly offensive class that lets you spawn with a crossbow and bear traps, but all wild wolves will be werewolves. I don't know what kind of awful trade-off that is, but if you ever see someone using this class, just know it's solely for the Werewolf Hunter challenge. Actually, I think the Werewolf Hunter challenge is the only good thing about this class. The crossbow is okay, but does less damage than a revolver, and you really aren't ever going to use bear traps. I'd hate to be rude, but for 75 bonds, this thing sucks. And after you complete the challenge, you'll never use it again outside of trolling. Priest is a support class that barely supports anything. You are immune to lightning strikes, and you spawn with 2 holy waters and 2 crucifixes. This class is decent. There's nothing really special about it. The crucifixes can't be sold because, well, you'd be rich at the start of the game, but you can sell the holy waters to get you $60 extra. If you don't want to sell them, holy waters are very good for crowd control. Both the crucifixes and holy waters spawn lightning, so this class is perfect for charging up the electrocutioner and quickly taking Nikola Tesla down. But that's in the end game. This class is basically just Arsonist with Zeus powers. It doesn't help that you can find everything special about this class in a church. You don't even have to worry about lightning either. The chances of getting struck are very low. Only high rollers have to deal with that. President is a support class, and just like Packmaster, you should never use this class with a hunter. This class allows you to spawn a powerful soldier upon death, but enemies can see you 2 times as far. This class is essentially a doctor's best friend. The soldier that spawns when you die has a bolt action rifle. With enough respawns, you could have an entire army at your side. 2 times enemy detection distance won't even matter since they'll just get sniped before getting close to the train. But keep in mind, 1 werewolf is enough to take out 1 soldier, so unless you have an army, be careful going near castles. Notice how I said this class is a doctor's best friend. Yeah, this class is only useful in multiplayer. Unless you want to spend hundreds of Robux on revives, this class is completely useless in solo. Actually, it might be up there with musician for a class worse than none for solo runs. Don't forget this class is completely useless while you're alive. Zombie has to be the only class to get buffed and still be trash. Zombie is a support class that allows you to eat dead bodies to replenish health, but you can't use bandages or snake oil, and you are less detected by enemies. The only reason you'd use this class would be for the pacifist challenge. You also heal from being covered in zombie blood, which was the new buff added, but that didn't really change much. For one, zombies are a lot more useful as fuel, and snake oils are insanely good with the speed boost you get along with being healed. Eating a zombie only gives you 10 HP anyway, so you really aren't getting much. And to top it off, this class costs 75 bonds. There are so many cheaper classes that outclass this one. This class is really only considered trash because it's way too overpriced for how mid it is. If it were like 25 to 50 bonds, it wouldn't be so bad. Ironclad is another, unfortunately, heavily overpriced class. It's a defensive class that gives you a full set of armor, but slows your speed by 10% because the armor is heavy. This class is an absolute tank, perfect for anyone who wants to play aggressively but sucks at keeping their health high. You won't have to spend any money on armor either, and that's where all the benefits end. In reality, this thing is really just used for you to get an alt account with this class to give your main account a full set of armor instead. It's not bad for solo, but for the price of 100 bonds, it's not worth it at all. Most of the time, when you see this class in a team, it'll be because it's giving everyone else armor instead, because armor is the only good thing about this class. Ironclad suffers from the same reasons as Zombie. If it were cheaper like 50 bonds, it would probably be used a lot more and liked a lot more too. But for being the most expensive class in the game, it's just not worth it. Event classes. Horse is a limited time event class that was earned by completing the horsing around game mode during the April Fool's event. This class is great because it allows you to spawn as a horse. Your movement speed is increased to be almost the same as a horse's. You can equip saddles so other players can literally get on your back and use you as a horse, and you can pull horse carts. This class is a walking glitch, because there's a pretty good chance you'll come across a lot of glitches when using this, but that only makes this class even better. There's no real downside to this class either. It's perfect. This class is a pretty fun way to complete the Pony Express challenge. Eggslinger is a limited time event class that was earned by completing the Extravaganza game mode during the Easter event. This class allows you to channel your inner Easter bunny and spawn an egg every 2 minutes. These eggs can range from small or medium to even large under certain circumstances. These eggs spawn friendly allies, and you can have up to 20 allies. Small eggs can spawn in a normal zombie, an outlaw, 1 to 2 wolves, or a werewolf. Medium eggs can spawn a werewolf, 3 to 4 wolves, 3 normal zombies that have a slight chance to change into a different variant, and an outlaw. To get large eggs, you have to do the UFO challenge Easter egg, and the egg would be found in the Extravaganza event towns after. Large eggs can spawn 3 outlaws, 2 werewolves, and 3 random zombie variants. Dead werewolves and outlaws can be sold for extra cash, so you can make an infinite money farm. Basically, this class lets you create your own army, similar to the President, only 100 times more useful, and you don't have to die to use it. The only downsides are that all the allies can clutter the terrain and be annoying. Eggs laid on the train may fall off. And of course the biggest one, this class isn't obtainable anymore. Also, the allies may bug out and cause some crazy glitches. If you like this video, you will definitely love this video on screen. Comment below what Roblox topic you want to see covered next, and be sure to subscribe for more Roblox explaining content. Sorry if my voice sounds weird right now, I somewhat lost my voice over the past few days, but I should be fully back in action in the next one. Anyway, see you soon.